Hi guys, it's Boingy and welcome back or welcome to my channel where we sit down together every Wednesday and talk about true crime cases from all over the world. Today we're going to be talking about the case of Oscar Pistorius and Reeva Steenkamp, which was such a big case in South Africa. Some people also refer to it as the O.J. Simpson's case of South Africa. It is really big, it's insane, it's crazy, it's scary. So I hope that you'll stick around to hear more about this case. But before we get into it, as always, I have to make my usual disclaimer that I mean absolutely no disrespect to anybody that I'm going to be talking about in this video and all the families that were and are affected by this case. This video is purely for educational purposes, and all the information that I'm going to be talking about in this video was gotten off the internet and simply compiled into one video. With that being said, let's just get right into it. Reeva Steenkamp was born on the 19th of August 1983 in Cape Town to parents Barry and June Steenkamp. She had two half-siblings, Adam Steenkamp and Simone Calburn, from her parents' previous marriages respectively. Although she was born in Cape Town, her family later moved to Port Elizabeth, where she attended St. Dominio's Priory School. Reeva was a really nice person and it was kind of easy for her to make friends. She was compassionate, she was smart, she was respectful, she was just an all-around good person and the type of person that anyone would be lucky to have as a friend. Throughout her childhood, her parents really struggled to make ends meet. They really struggled to make a living in the horse racing industry in Port Elizabeth, but Reeva just soldiered on. She took it like a boss and she never showed anyone that she had any sort of struggle. She just lived her life like everybody else and didn't show people that she had all of these problems, like that she worried so much about her parents. She just kept it together. When she was 15, she began modeling, and it was after a teacher and some friends of hers had suggested it to her, and so she went and tried it out. At first it was just a hobby, there was nothing serious, but it would develop and become more than just a hobby. It would actually become a career of hers. She also did some poetry. The only poem that I could find of hers is called My Garden, and it's so touching and it's written so professionally. You wouldn't really know that it was written by a teen unless I'm just ignorant. After high school, Reeva studied law at the University of Port Elizabeth, which later became Nelson Mandela University, and she graduated with her Bachelor of Laws degree in the year 2005. In that very same year, she was chosen as the first South African face for Avon. She then decided to move from Port Elizabeth to Johannesburg to advance her modeling career. In 2007, she met Warren LaHood and she got into a relationship with him. Their relationship became more serious in 2008 and it would last for 4.5 years, during which time the couple stayed together. Reeva was always worried about her parents. Their financial situation was always at the back of her mind, and it really contributed a lot to where she wanted to be. She was really worried about her parents, and so she would help out whenever she could. She would help out, she would send them money and just stuff like that. Her career was still advancing and she was getting more and more popular. She also became a popular feature in the men's magazine called FHM. In December of 2011, she would also be chosen as the magazine's cover girl after being one of 12 girls to be featured in the magazine's 2011 calendar. But even though her career was still growing, she wanted more. She wanted to be more than just a cover girl for a man's magazine. She wanted more. She wanted to be bigger, and she actually wanted to use this current popularity as a stepping stone to bigger platforms such as television. And with the popularity and fame that she had gotten, she managed to bag a spot as one of the celebrity contestants on a TV game show called Tropica Island of Treasure. It was shot in Jamaica in 2012, but it was set to be on our screens in 2013. Just months before traveling to Jamaica, she and her boyfriend Warren broke up. She would later meet the famous Paralympian Oscar Pistorius, and the two just had an instant connection. Although she wasn't actively looking for love, she would mention to some of her friends that she would love to find love again. And it seemed as though Oscar just happened to come around at the right time. Their first date was on the 4th of November 2012 when Oscar took Reeva to the South African Sports Awards as his date. Oscar Pistorius was born on the 22nd of November 1986 in Sandton, Johannesburg, to parents Hank and Sheila Pistorius. He was born missing the outside of both feet and both fibulae, and because of this, when he was just 11 months old, both his legs were amputated. Oscar grew up in a Christian home. He has an older brother Carl and a younger sister Amy. He attended Constania Kloof Primary School and Pretoria Boys High School, where he played the rugby union in the school's team. He also played water polo and tennis at a provincial level between the ages of 11 and 13. When his parents got divorced, Oscar and his siblings lived with their mother, who was a very anxious woman. She had a pistol that she claimed was for her safety and her children's safety, and sometimes at night she would just get really scared and call the police when there was really nothing to be scared of. So Oscar was really accustomed to the idea of having guns in the house for safety. Unfortunately, at the age of 15, Oscar's mother passed on, and this really affected him badly. But despite his disabilities, Oscar really lived his life like how any other able-bodied person does. He didn't let his disabilities define him as a person. He was introduced to running in January of 2004 while undergoing rehabilitation at the University of Pretoria after having a serious rugby knee injury in June of 2003. He started studying BCom in business management with sports science at the University of Pretoria in 2006. At the 2006 IPC Athletics World Championships, he won gold in the 100, 200 and 400 meter events, breaking the world record for over 200 meters. And he was just 20 years old. The following year, on the 17th of March 2007, he set the disability sports world record for the 400 meters at the South African Senior Athletics Championships. He became the world record holder of the 100 and 200 meter events with the time of 10 and 21 seconds respectively. In 2008, Oscar, also known as the Blade Runner, participated in the Summer Paralympics in Beijing. He crashed a boat in 2009 and he was severely injured by this accident. Beer bottles were also found on the boat, but Oscar was never charged with anything. And it just seemed as though his management team was working overtime to cover up this whole story and make sure that no straight answers would ever come out. In 2012, Oscar made history. He was big at this time. I think this was the biggest he had ever been in his career. He also made history as the first double leg amputee to compete against able-bodied athletes, and this was really big for South Africa. This was huge. His career was really going well for him. He was also having loads and loads of interviews, international interviews, some in Italy, some in other countries. He was really big. He was international. He was sensational. 2012 was the Oscar year, like in terms of like Paralympics and Olympics. It was the Oscar year, especially in South Africa. His career was going really well, and when he met Reeva, like I said, they fell in love. They really had this instant connection, and they had a liking for each other, so they started dating. Oscar Pistorius is also related to Mickey Pistorius, who is a South African profiler. I've mentioned her in my Jimmy Maketa, aka the Jesus Killer video, and I don't know if I mentioned her in my Moses Sithole video, the ABC Killer, which was my very first video, but I do remember hearing her name quite a lot while I was doing my research for that video. She is a criminal profiler. So I think it's a fun fact or a weird fact, I don't know, but I just wanted to include that. So in the beginning stages of their relationship was really going well, and people could witness the love that they had for each other. Oscar was always treating Reeva like a princess, you know, it was princess treatment or nothing. He was taking her out, buying her gifts, showering her with love. The love was there, it was evident, everyone could see it, and it seemed like it was intense. It was really strong. but it would eventually become overwhelming. In the later stages of their relationship, and by later stages I mean 2 to 3 months into the relationship, they began having some problems. It seemed like Oscar had some jealousy issues. On one text message that Reeva sent to Oscar, she was complaining about how Oscar gets to tell her all these funny stories and she just gets to laugh and enjoy the stories, but when she gets to tell him a funny story about an ex or something, he would just get jealous and wouldn't want to hear about it anymore. At the time, Reeva was still very focused on advancing her career, and she signed with Capacity Relations, hoping that the team would help her make the right moves and make her name a brand. So when she started this relationship with Oscar, the team was really worried. They were worried that this relationship would derail their plans of making Reeva a brand, because she would be known as Oscar's girlfriend instead of making her own name and building her own identity. In the days leading to Valentine's Day 2013, Reeva was excited and she was preparing for her TV debut on Tropica Island of Treasures. She was also very involved and heartbroken about the rape and murder of Anine Boyson, who was raped, disemboweled, and left for dead at a construction site in Bredasdorp on the 2nd of February 2013. I have a video covering that case on my channel. You can just go search for it, or you can click up here. I'll have it linked in the cards, so if you want to check it out, you know what to do. She was also scheduled to speak out against abusive relationships and abuse in general at the Sundowns High School morning assembly on Valentine's Day, and she was really excited and looking forward to it, but unfortunately she would never make it. So CCTV footage showed Reeva driving into the estate where Oscar lived. He lived in Silverwoods Estate in Pretoria, which is a prestigious estate. It is a gated community and people of a particular stature live there. So CCTV footage showed Reeva driving into it a few hours before her death, and then Oscar Pistorius was seen driving in about 10 minutes after Reeva. So we don't really know what happened between then and the early hours of the 14th of February, because we weren't there, and Oscar's story really has a lot of loopholes. It just doesn't seem credible, so I'm not gonna run with it. But also the other person who was there, who could tell us what actually happened, is not here to tell us. So yeah. In the early hours of the morning of the 14th of February, neighbors heard a loud scream coming from Oscar's house. Some neighbors said that it was a very high-pitched male voice, and it seemed like this man was in danger and he was scared for his life. But other neighbors said that it was a woman's scream, and it was those type of screams that just send chills down your spine. It was so horrible and so scary that they just knew that this woman's life was in danger. So we have these two stories about these screams, but these two stories are kind of conflicting each other. The other ones are saying Oscar was screaming, the other ones are saying Reeva was screaming. So some neighbors rushed to the scene to see if they could help whoever was screaming, and that's when they discovered that Oscar's girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp, had been gunned down. She had actually been shot 4 times from behind the bathroom door by Oscar, and her head was actually busted open from the effect of one of the bullets. She was not alive, she had no pulse at this moment, and she had been shot to death 4 times. So that morning, people, South Africa, woke up to the news that Oscar Pistorius had gunned down his girlfriend. He had shot his girlfriend to death, and everybody was just shocked. It's not the kind of news that you expect to hear on Valentine's Day, but they were just shocked because both him and his girlfriend were doing so well in life. They were excelling, they were doing pretty good, their careers were advancing, they were growing. Everybody was just shocked. Nobody could have seen it coming, not even the friends. Nobody saw this coming, so everybody was shocked. Of course, Oscar was taken into police custody. He was actually arrested because he never denied the fact that he was the one who fired those shots. He was the one who killed Reeva, but he more so denied the fact that it was murder. He actually claimed that he had no idea that it was Reeva behind the door, and that he had no intention to kill Reeva. So his trial began on the 3rd of March 2014, and it was big. So the prosecution story was that Reeva and Oscar had an argument. They had been arguing for a while, and they had an argument that night, and the argument got heated up so bad that Reeva had to run into the bathroom and lock herself in there to get away from Oscar. And when Oscar couldn't get her to come out of the room, he decided to shoot her to death. Shoot to kill. But the defense denied. They actually used Reeva's Valentine's Day gift to Oscar as a way to prove that Oscar and Reeva's relationship was perfect. Reeva had gotten a photo frame for Oscar, and this photo frame had 4 pictures of the couple, and there was a card that read, "Roses are red, violets are blue. I think today is a perfect day to tell you that I love you." But I think that we cannot just use that as evidence for many reasons, and one of that reason being that if they had an argument that evening, she couldn't have known earlier on when purchasing the gift that they would have that argument. And besides, couples fight all the time, but couples still get each other gifts on Valentine's, I feel. I don't know, but I just don't think that it's credible. You can't just look at that and say, oh yeah, they were perfect because Reeva bought Oscar a card and a photo frame. No, please. Oscar's story actually was that he had gotten up in the middle of the night, went out to the balcony, grabbed a fan, moved it inside the house, and at that exact moment he heard some movement in the bathroom. When he heard some movement in the bathroom, he thought that there was an intruder. He actually thought that Reeva was still sleeping in the bed near him, and he thought that there was an intruder in his bathroom, so he decided to grab his gun and shoot through the door 4 times because that person wouldn't get out of the bathroom. And only then did he realize that Reeva was not in bed. Some people who knew Oscar thought that his story was true because it seemed as though Oscar was very anxious because he grew up around guns and he grew up believing that, you know, anything could happen and you need guns for safety. And one of his friends actually said that when he first visited Oscar and he saw a gun on his bedside table, he asked him why he had the gun because he lived in a gated community, and Oscar just said, you never know if the guards are in the robbery. You know, so it just seemed like he was just accustomed to the idea of having a gun for safety. But I personally don't believe Oscar's story because, number one, he claims that before shooting he yelled at the person in the bathroom to get out of his house, and if he did that, I feel like Reeva would have said, hey, no, it's me, you know. Secondly, I don't think that it is normal. I don't know, maybe it is to other people, but I don't think it is usual for someone to get out of bed, go to the bathroom, get into the bathroom, and lock the bathroom if you're just there to pee or something in the middle of the night. So she must have locked herself inside there because she was running away from Oscar for some reason. We don't know what reason, but she must have been trying to get away from Oscar. Thirdly, I don't think that any intruders would think, oh hey, let me go use the bathroom. If people wanted to steal something, obviously Oscar was this big shot. He probably had very expensive stuff in his house. These people would have grabbed whatever they could and bounced. They wouldn't have thought, oh, let me use the bathroom. You know, it just doesn't make sense for an intruder, a robber, whoever, to use the bathroom. It just doesn't make sense why Oscar thought that it was an intruder in his bathroom. And then another reason is I don't think it was reasonable for him to shoot 4 times without knowing who was behind the door. He probably knew who was behind the door and he was shooting to kill. How do you just shoot 4 times if you don't want the outcome to be death? I do not understand. Because if there is an intruder, it would be best to shoot once just to kind of injure them. Twice at most, just to injure them, so that the police can come and do their job. But I don't know, maybe I'm not making sense, but I just don't think Oscar's story is true. Oscar was crying throughout the trial, and he even apologized to Reeva's parents for taking Reeva's life. But I also, maybe I'm against this guy, I don't know, but I just feel like his emotions were overemphasized. He was painting this perfect picture of someone who regrets what they did because they didn't actually think they were doing what they were doing. It was just too much. It was too much. It was too obvious that this person was acting, but of course some people believed him. Some people chose to believe him because he's Oscar Pistorius. But knowing what I know and having watched so many true crime documentaries, I just think that he was painting this perfect picture so that people could feel sorry for him. And it actually breaks my heart to think about how much of the attention he took. It's like people didn't consider the victim at all. Everything was just about Oscar. Oscar is on trial. Oscar killed his girlfriend. Some people didn't even know who Reeva was. Some people didn't even know Oscar's girlfriend's name. You know, people were just paying attention to Oscar, the big Paralympian, the star of 2012. And I think that's why they chose to believe his story. People, not the court, people. He was then sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. On the 19th of October, the following year, 2015, Oscar was released from prison and placed under house arrest. On the 6th of July 2016, on appeal, he was sentenced to 6 years for murder instead of 5 years for culpable homicide. And he was incarcerated again. On the 21st of July 2016, the NPA confirmed that they would appeal against the shockingly lenient sentence from 5 years to 6 years. On the 24th of November 2017, the Supreme Court of Appeal finally sentenced Oscar to 15 years, which is still lenient in my opinion, but it's better than 5 years. He had already spent 2 to 3 years in prison, so the remaining sentence was 13 years. He will be eligible for parole either this year or next year, but I've been seeing some news reports about his parole, so it's definitely gonna be soon. Reeva Steenkamp was cremated and her ashes were scattered at sea in Port Elizabeth. I feel like this was my most opinionated video. In most of my videos I just tell you all the facts and I don't really get into what I feel and what my opinion is, but there's a first time for everything. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it or found it informative, please don't forget to like. And if you enjoyed it, you'll probably enjoy this one as well. Or you could also subscribe to my channel while you're at it, because there's plenty more where this came from. And with that being said, that's it from me to you. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!